Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into something really wild, a spiritual experience that's both painful and, well, pleasurable. Yeah, you heard that right. It comes from one of history's most famous mystics, St. Teresa of Avila, and her 16th century masterpiece, The Interior Castle. And let me tell you, she describes something that totally flips our ideas of pain and pleasure on their head. So let's just dive right into the heart of the mystery here. A delicious wound. I mean, how can a wound be delicious? And how can a soul be crying out but not actually feel any pain? This is the core paradox we're going to unpack. An experience that's described as both an injury and somehow a source of incredible delight.
All right, first up, we've got to understand what this thing even is. The text gives it a name that honestly captures the contradiction perfectly: a wound of love.
Now, it's super important to get this straight. We're not talking about a physical injury. Not at all. It's described more like a spiritual impulse, like an arrow of love that just pierces the very center of your soul. The pain it causes isn't pain like we think of it, but it's seen as a sign of divine favor, something that feels incredibly sweet and even desirable.
And where does this all come from? Well, you can see the text itself right here. This isn't some modern psychological theory. We're looking at a first-hand account from the Sixth Mansions by St. Teresa of Avila. So this is a historical record of a super personal, internal event.
And the text is really clear on this point. You can't work towards this. You can't meditate your way into it. It just arrives, bam, without any warning, like a comet or a clap of thunder. For Teresa, that suddenness is actually proof that it's a genuine grace from a divine source, not something our own minds can cook up. So, what does this delicious pain actually feel like? Let's try to break this down, because, man, it is just full of contradictions. And this is where you can really see the paradox laid bare. On one hand, the soul is trembling, it's crying out, it even registers the whole thing as suffering. But then, on the other hand, there's no actual physical pain. Instead, it's sweet and delicious and is seen as this precious gift. It's not one or the other. It's both at the exact same time.
And get this, the author Teresa, she explicitly says that this painful experience is actually better than other spiritual states that are just purely peaceful and blissful. The fact that there's this delicious wound element actually elevates it, making it an even more profound and sought-after grace. Crazy, right?
Okay, so this brings us to a really critical question. One you're probably already thinking. How on earth can you be sure an experience this strange is actually real and not just, all in your head? What's amazing is that the text totally anticipates our modern skepticism. We're talking 400 years ago, and the author was already dealing with this problem of discernment. So she actually laid out a whole framework for telling the difference between a real divine grace and something that's just a psychological trick, or maybe even something worse. So how do you put it to the test? Well, first, the experience has to feel like it comes from the very core of your being, not just your imagination. Second, it has to leave you with a lasting sense of peace, not anxiety. And here's the kicker. The author argues that while some malevolent force might be able to fake pleasure, it just cannot replicate this unique blend of delicious pain. That's like the divine signature. And Teresa is really firm on this. Because of that unique combo of being sudden, paradoxical, and having all these positive after effects, she says this is not something you can just explain away. It's not a natural cause, and it's not what the text calls melancholy, what we might call depression today. So, if it's considered real, what's the whole point of such a jarring experience? Well, this final section gets into its ultimate purpose, the massive, transformative impact it has on the soul. See, this isn't just some fleeting feeling. It's a catalyst for huge, permanent change. The soul is left with this brand new determination to endure hardships, a kind of detachment from superficial things, and this deep, lasting sense of spiritual satisfaction. And the power of this experience is considered just immense. The text claims that just a single instance of this divine wound can be so spiritually nourishing that it leaves a person feeling completely fulfilled for years, even if they're going through really tough times. And this kind of brings us full circle, back to how the whole event is reframed. What starts out as this startling, almost painful shock is ultimately revealed to be a profound act of love. It's a gift designed not to harm you, but to strengthen you, purify you, and pull you closer to the divine. In the end, this 400-year-old text challenges us on more than just a spiritual level. It's also a challenge on a linguistic one. It forces us to deal with experiences that just don't fit into our neat little boxes, pushing right up against the boundaries of how we describe our deepest inner realities. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other profound truths are hiding out there in the paradoxes we just can't quite explain?